Do your plants look sad? Maybe leaves have damage, new leaves coming out fully brown? You may have thrips. Let's talk about it. If you're new, my name is Rose. I have about 350 houseplants and I have had a lot of thrips in my house. So this video is to help you, and the main thing is how to spot them. Because they are so small, it is kind of hard to see them with the naked eye, especially if you're not used to, if you don't know what they look like. So the first thing that you usually see is damage on the leaves. And that often looks like a little bit of a silvery sheen, a weird pattern on it, and often also black dots, which is the poop, by the way, of the thrips. And noticing this damage on the leaves can help you to catch the thrips earlier. So that's why I'm sharing lots of footage of how it looked on my plants. From my experience, they especially love Monstera. Apparently they're very tasty for thrips, but I've also had them on my philodendron, my anthurium. Currently they're on my alocasia. They seem to be nice and juicy this time of year. And I've actually also had them quite a lot on my Hoya, which you might not expect because of the more succulent leaves. But they take a wide range of plants, which sucks for us. And if you have variegated plants, then you definitely have to keep an eye out because of the patterns on the leaves, pests are harder to spot. And also the damage that thrips cause is harder to spot because these leaves have different colors. For example, there's a lot of thrips on this one currently, but on the front, it's a little bit harder to see. Now, when you look at the back, that is where you can see them more easily and more often. So if you've spotted the damage, now it is time to investigate. And with that, I mostly mean looking closer, looking better. And I like to look at the backs of the leaves because thrips often hide there, and it is easier to see the damage and the poops than at the front. Because for example, on this leaf, the pattern at the front is very clear. At the back, it is a little bit milder or like more muted. So then it's more easy to spot all the thrips poops that are hiding over here. It also helps to look at the newest leaves of your plants because they often apparently are the juiciest. So pests often go to the newest leaves or flowers if your plant has flowers. And you can do this investigation with the naked eye, or I like to use my phone and hold it really close or zoom in so you get a little bit of a magnifying system. If you have a magnifying glass, of course, that works as well. And you can use a microscope. I have this one from Amazon. It is a digital one, so it connects to my phone and I can film with this thing and then see on my phone screen and record what we're seeing. So this especially helps for the smaller larva stage. We will talk about that in a second. And also for even smaller bugs that you cannot see with the naked eye. So thrips are a slender, small winged insect that is maximum 2 millimeters in length and the adult size. So they are very small. Their shape is kind of like a grain of rice, but a lot smaller. But once you get used to spotting them, it is much easier to see them with the naked eye. They are visible. They come in many different colors, from very light colored to a little bit more brown and yellow to all the way black. There are several species that are almost black or striped black or fully black. The larvae, so the younger stages, are often more light colored, either white or even kind of see-through, so that they are also hard to spot. And I learned from researching for this video that there are over 6,000 species of thrips, most of which are actually harmless. Only less than 20 species are harmful to our plants. And there are also different species that are predators. So they eat the thrips that attack our plants. And I actually use those for my treatment. Why are thrips bad? They scrape the surface of the leaf and then suck out the contents, killing off that part of the leaf and the surrounding tissue. And this is what creates that silvery splotch. Because of their fast life cycle, they can be very harmful to our plants because they don't only deform the leaves, but they can kill whole plants. I'm sure many of you have lost plants to thrips, as have I. It is very sad, but sometimes you just have to surrender, because keeping a plant that is highly infested will only make it worse inside your house. Because thrips access the sap stream of your plant, they can also transmit viruses between different plants, which of course is bad. And they are hard to treat because, first of all, the fast life cycle. Second, they lay their eggs inside the plant tissue, which makes them hard to treat as well. And third, they can quickly become resistant to insecticides. The big question is, how do they get into your house and into your collection? And there's actually many different ways, unfortunately. The main one is when you bring in new plants. Because you don't know what's hiding, you may not be able to see the eggs on the plant, even if you investigate it thoroughly and maybe treat it. You might still have eggs left over, especially since in the EU now growers are no longer allowed to use strong pesticides. So they have to adjust to using beneficial insects like I do at home. And of course, the transition takes some time for them to find the right balance. There are higher chances at the moment to find pests on plants in garden centers. But thrips can fly. They can come in through windows. They often live outside on trees as well. They can come in on bouquets of flowers. I've had a bouquet of flowers come in filled with scale. It was disgusting. I didn't want it inside. I kept it in the garden. Luckily, it was for my birthday, so in summer. And they can even come in on fruit and vegetables into your house. I've had, what are they called? Raspberries that had thrips on them, which is really bad. By the way, it is thrips with an S. It is always plural. So you can't say, I see one thrip. It's always thrips. And apparently you also can't use a thrips because it doesn't need the A, but that kind of makes it hard to distinguish between a singular and a whole, oh, hit myself in the face, a whole infestation. Which is why I always advise people to isolate plants if they get new plants in. Even if you've treated it, if you've checked it, keep it in an isolated little box or a different room in your house away from the other plants, just to be sure that it doesn't have any pests. I usually recommend like 2 or 3 weeks because of the life cycle of different pests. If then it still looks great, then it can integrate into the collection. If you use good bugs like I do, then this is a little bit less important though. So the life cycle of thrips ranges between 2 weeks to 34 days, depending on different sources. And adult thrips can fly. So they fly around, they find a good plant host, and then they lay their eggs inside the soft tissue of the plant. This can be new leaves, soft parts of the stem, maybe flower petals as well. So they hide them all over the place. And one adult female thrips can lay, depending on the website, up to 100 eggs or 250 eggs in their lifetime. Depending on the environment, the eggs hatch between 2 to 6 days. So this is pretty fast. And then they become the larva stage. Apparently those are called nymphs. And there's 2 stages of nymphs. Smaller ones first, and then they mutate into a slightly bigger one. And those cannot fly, but they do scratch the leaves and eat the plant and damage the plant. They are often very light colored and they are very small, so hard to see with the naked eye. And this stage lasts 2 to 3 weeks. Then they transition into the pupal stage. And depending on the species, this happens on the plant or on or at the top layer of the soil. So not all species do this, but I often see people recommending to change the soil just to make sure that if you have a species that does pupate on the soil, then you get rid of the pupae, I think. At this stage, they are harmless and it lasts about 3 to 4 days until they turn into adult thrips who are winged, who are quite fast moving. Here you can see one walking on my hand, and this is one filmed with my microscope. I always struggle to keep up with them with my microscope. Actually, also the larvae are quite fast moving, the nymphs. They then mate and lay their eggs again. This, by the way, is a female digging a hole for her egg. And this stage lasts about 2 weeks. And then the whole cycle starts up again and again and again. They like warmth, so on my side of the world, they are more active from spring until fall, meaning April until September or something. If it is cooler, they become less active, but they can overwinter. And then most importantly, what do you do? The treatment of the thrips. And the first step for me is always to take the plant out of the collection and check the plants around it, because by the time you see the thrips, they will probably have spread to surrounding plants as well. And then there are different options. A lot of people will go for insecticidal soaps or neem oil, for example. And this works well because it suffocates the nymphs and eggs cannot hatch. But if eggs are hidden away in the plant tissue, which they often are, then the treatment cannot reach them. So often it doesn't work for the eggs. Plus, thrips can very quickly become resistant to different insecticides and then you have a much bigger problem. You can also choose to go for a systemic pesticide, something that goes into the roots of the plants and then becomes part of the plant material, which deters or kills insects that scratch the leaves. My friends love to use Edialux Conserve Garden, which is an organic insecticide. Maybe that helps for you as well if you're in Europe. That's where I've been able to find it. I've tried this with my mum's plants and we've had really good success. You can use it as a spray as well as a systemic. Keep in mind that with treatments like this, you have to be very careful for your own health, for your pets and your kids, and also where the residue, the water that pours away from the plant goes, because it can really harm nature. So it's good to be really mindful with this, and also remember that thrips can become resistant to this very quickly. Sticky traps are great to monitor and also capture adult thrips. They are the little yellow or often also blue for thrips specifically, the little catch plates that adults that fly get stuck on. I catch more fungus gnats with these than thrips. You have to hang them in the right place, just above the plants or in between the plants, not too far at the bottom, in my experience. It is also good to remove infested materials, especially, like I said, to isolate, but maybe also take parts off the plant that are very highly infested. Maybe you cut off the newest leaves that are probably filled with thrips and eggs and everything. And maybe you have to decide to throw plants away. Sometimes it is easier to get rid of one very badly infested plant or like put it outside for a while to see if it survives or not, rather than to try and treat it and then infest your whole collection more and more. The way I treat it is by using beneficial insects, which I have shared about a lot, but it means using good bugs to catch the bad bugs. These are not official terms, they are the terms that I like to use, but predatory mites you can use. They attack the larvae and the eggs. I work with Entocare and they also have predatory thrips. It depends on where you are in the world if companies will have these, but it's called Predatrip, and they attack the adult thrips as well as the larvae, the nymphs. And you can also use nematodes. They generally are used more for fungus gnats, but they can also attack the pupae in the soil layer. And what I like about the organic pest management method, the good bug method, is that one, it is a lot less work for me, in my experience, because it feels like there's a whole little army doing all the work for me and all I have to do is manage them. Two, it is also preventative. So whenever I show plants, you will often notice there are little baggies like this hanging on it. This is a baggie of predatory mites that helps against thrips, and then also whitefly and some other pests. Oh, spider mites, I think, as well. I recently did learn that it is very helpful to hose down your plants, to spray down your plants before you put out new good bugs, just to help eradicate most of the adults, especially, of whatever pest you have. I have not done this. I've used good bugs for years now, and some of you have said like it doesn't seem to be working very well. Shouldn't you move on to like an insecticide or something? It's me. Of course it's me, because I'm the factor here. Also, I bring in lots of new plants and I did not know about this spraying. So just with water, I like to use a very strong beam of my garden hose and then thoroughly spray down the plants before, like the day or 2 days before new good bugs arrive. But with 350 plants, this is a lot of work and I don't enjoy it. Plus it messes up my shower or my drain because there will be soil and leaves and everything. So I'm a little bit lazy because my energy levels are not great. Hopefully after the new treatment that will be increased, but here's the GoFundMe link. Let's put that in there. We just reached 5,000 euros the day before filming this. I am so grateful for the donations and it's giving me hope that it is going to be possible before the beginning of March when the treatment starts, when I have to pay 6,200 euros for just the treatment. Plus I have to stay in I think I'm going for an Airbnb, so it's a little bit cheaper, but very nearby the clinic. Anyway, my energy levels are not so that I can just spray down my plants every month, all 350 of them. Generally, thrips suck. Literally and figuratively, actually. But they really made the hobby very not fun for me for a long time. And also for my mom, my family members. They can really make all the plants look super sad and not grow. I have this Epeperanum that's growing outside of my terrarium, there are no leaves on the whole stem because they all withered and died from thrips. And now luckily the new leaves are looking good again. Maybe because it's winter, it's a little bit colder in my house, and I've been a little bit more active with treatment, but they definitely suck and they make the hobby harder. For me, it really helped using the good bugs. It feels like I have a whole army doing the work for me, and it makes me less stressed. Also, making these videos, my first reaction, of course, is like, pests, a new pest or whatever. And then my mind switches to, I guess it will make for a good video. And then I grab my camera and I film them. So I think it's important to choose a method that works for you, that gives you the least amount of work and stress as well. And to remember, as Summer Rain Oaks said in one of the first videos that I saw of her, that pests are part of the ecosystem of having this many plants. So the goal is not to eradicate all of them. The goal is to manage them so that the plants are happily growing. Sometimes you see a pest here and there. I like to squish them with my hands. Whatever I see, I just squish it and then do the treatments that work for you. I especially like the preventative treatment of the baggies. And I'm sharing this mainly so that your mental health is not suffering because your plants are suffering with pests. For me, that is the most important, that it stays fun, that when you see them, they make you happy, they don't make you worry and stressed. So hopefully this video helps you to spot them earlier with the leaf damage tips, and you know a little bit more about them. My neighbor walked by. You know a little bit more about them to understand how they grow. And then third, the treatment. You can choose what works for you. You can test out the different methods. I definitely recommend, if you are in the Netherlands, to check out Entocare. They're one of the oldest companies here that grow their own good bugs to treat bad bugs. But I know there's different companies in America, and on other places around the world, you'll have to look locally because of course they cannot ship live bugs around the world. But hopefully this video helps you. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe below if you haven't already. You can click the bell to get notified anytime I upload. And I would love to hear from you. Do you have any more questions about thrips? What plants have you had suffer most from thrips? Because my experience might be different than yours. Share your stories. Share your tips for treatment as well. I know different people have different specific products that might be very effective. And that's it for this video. Thanks so much for hanging out, friends. See you in the next one. Bye. First, I think shit. What can I say? Thinking of a word I can say. First, I think darn. That's so not a word I would use.